Hello, everyone. So my name is Adam Kaat. First off, I'd like to thank Diversity MBA for having me to speak about my book. It's truly an honor. It's so cool to get to do this kind of stuff. I feel very blessed to be able to do it. Uh, but you all see that picture there of me in the San Francisco Bay. That was the summer or the spring of 2019. Oddly enough, that expression would define the next few years of my life. Like, what am I going to do? I have no idea what's next. So my journey began in the fall of 2019. I come to one of those crossroads in my life where that many of us do in our careers. And I was at a cool new company, new job, but I was in a toxic work environment. I hated like the job itself. My boss was like a grading person who like expect perfection and things. And I had I really had some choices to make because I had just started this job. I had spent the last 10 years of my life floating, trying to carve out a career in an industry I didn't really care about. Um, and I came to the point in 2019 after like giving up a lot of things just to start this new job that I was not on the right path. I wasn't going in the right direction. My life had not been in my control. I was just doing things to do it. So I talked to some friends and family and kind of got a pull from everyone I knew and got the same advice from everybody. It's like, well, Adam, if you're miserable, if you don't like your life, change it then. Do something about it. So what I did is I decided that I was going to quit my job. Without having another job behind it. I had, I don't know, maybe a month's worth of salary, and then I had my 401k. So I did a very irresponsible thing, according to my parents, but I cashed out my 401k and I decided to pursue something I'd always wanted to do. And I always wanted to write a novel. So I had almost no overhead. So I had a really cheap apartment. I didn't have anything to worry about. I don't have kids, single guy. So I cashed out my 401k and started writing. I went after it every day. That was my plan. Was I was going to write the next great American novel. It's like this, like just high ideal artistic thing where you don't know where you're going to go, but I needed to do it. I needed to prioritize myself and my mental health. I had good people in my life that I knew would be supportive of me if I just everything fell off and I couldn't find a job. Some of them even offered a couch if I needed to stay on it. I didn't think I would work at any job that I could just to pay the rent and work on my dream. But I had a great support system around me. I was lucky in that regard. I'm very blessed to have good people in my life. And so I took that little bit of savings and worked every day, started writing it, right. I was trying to unwind the anxiety and pressure I put myself to figure it out. Like this, you just go from job to job and you never really like find true happiness, or you never find that soul in what you do. You're just working. And not everyone needs that. A lot of people just like their day-to-day tasks, but I knew that I like to have purpose in what I do. I like to feel like I'm actually contributing to something as opposed to just being a cog in the machine. And so I decided that, after I was writing for a while, I got to a draft stage. It was about like 70 pages. And I'm looking back on that draft now, it's not that great. It's one of those things like you learn that you just get better with writing over time for sure. But I needed a job, I needed money. And so I started working in a grocery store. I started working at a local grocery store that was near my house, but like in a very different area. So I live in the Capital area of Denver. very like low income. It's just a bunch of college students, like mixed group of people. And then I walked down to a very affluent area where there was, nice big organic grocery store that I would work at. And that's where I worked for the next year and a half. So I started by January 2020, I'd started working in a grocery store. And I honestly, it seemed like the right kind of job for me because it encourages the gift of gab, and I love stories. As a writer, I absolutely adore stories. Right now, I'm reading like East of Eden, and it's just this all-encompassing, amazing story that brings you in. And I figured, talking to strangers every day, like chatting them up, you might get these little nuggets that I could use for writing, or just pure entertainment. And then it also lead me to be, mentally available to work in the morning because I can work at nights a lot, and I like to write in the morning. So in a lot of ways, I was putting myself first there too, because I really did enjoy doing that work at first. And so, started by the end of, or started in January 2020, at the end of January 2020. And everyone knows by mid-March, everything changed. Our whole lives changed. I think it was St. Patrick's Day weekend that they sent the kids home and they shut down everything. And everything changed. It's like, so rumors spread, the lines grew, empty shelves, carts like piled high. I mean, people were buying everything from produce to individual, like fresh pressed juices. Like we were completely out of individual juices. They were filling up their carts with that sort of stuff. They'd buy rice and yeast. You started to see tension building between people about masks and social distancing. People openly confided in me a lot about, they're worried about their kids having to come home, what this was all going to do to their family dynamics, like people crying in line, like people spilling their guts and telling me about just their intense worries about their life. It was a very flattening experience because most of these people that go through that store are very affluent. And I'm like, here I am making minimum wage, and we're on like a same level in a way. It was fascinating in that regard that they were willing to open up to me and like talk to me at length about like that. Well, I'm checking them out about their lives, and it was enriching in a way. It was such a powerful experience. But yeah, you had the lockdowns, and you had 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and people. I remember when people thought that you could get COVID from your pets. We got those. We got those different, like different lines of thinking. Like people weren't sure what was going on. No one knew. No one had any answers for anyone. And so this picture right here this is 6th Avenue in Denver. It's extremely busy street, completely empty. I would ride my bike to work every day, and you could go 10 blocks without anyone, coming. You wouldn't see any lights. I'd go in the opposite direction and go for 10 blocks, and you wouldn't see anybody. Like it was completely empty. The whole city was quiet and shut down. It was so strange. Here's like a picture of the shelves in our grocery store. And it was this way for months. Like you could never catch up. The moment the shelf, you put stuff on the shelf, it was gone. And there's certain things that never really came back. And then they come back full swing, like yeast. All of a sudden we have an abundance of yeast, the fact that they had to get rid of it. Here's a picture of, I was having fun with a coworker, like you gotta, I don't know, laugh at least a little bit, but we had a face mask and a face shield, and we decided to take a selfie. And you're trying to survive at that point, like mentally, and try and get along with everything. And I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you guys remember the lines. This is a local grocery store for me, where you constantly had lines. We had lines of about 50 people out front on a regular basis. You couldn't have more than, I think it was 50 inside, and then it'd just line up all day long. Just people miserable in the cold. It's like in Rocky Mountain Springs, a lot of snow. It's not warm, particularly warm anyway. and people were miserable. So then they come in and they were even more miserable. But so my job as a cashier went from something I view as temporary to essential overnight. I didn't really know how to deal with that. There's a lot of pressure that comes with being deemed essential all of a sudden. And the best way for me to deal with anything really in life is writing. That's the way I understand the world. That's the way I deal with stress. It's the best thing that for me to discover was that I truly love writing all the way down. So I started collecting a lot of stories that I was going through day to day, and we I put them on a little in essay form in a blog called Life on the Grocery Line, and you can still see it at lifeonthegroceryline.com. The blog is still up there, and I did weekly or bi-week or like twice a week. I'd write stories, and so I started weaving them all together, and I was starting to, you get themes like the type of people you interact with, the type of interactions. And I shared this on Facebook. I shared the posts I was making, and the Facebook page grew and grew and grew, and people started sharing their stories. They this Bernice, she said that like I was providing a voice for people that were voiceless, and it's weird to even think of that for myself. I don't know how comfortable I am with that, I guess, but I appreciate the sentiment, and I'm glad that we could find that connection. We're finding connection during a time of extreme isolation where everyone was alone. Too many people were far too alone, and I was able to reach out, and it became like a community where people were sharing their stories. There's a story over to the right about Sally's like father's 87 and he wants some cinnamon buns, and the people at the bakery go above and beyond to help her out, and she begins to cry, and you felt there was a sense of community, which was kind of shocking. Like I never really thought of that in my life. I go to grocery stores and you leave and you realize that it was important to everybody. It was the only place to go. There was couples that would come in and it was their date night, was going to a grocery store. So I wove all these stories together, and it ended up creating a fictional memoir that follows Daniel the first week on the job at a high-end grocery store as the pandemic hits. And the story very much mirrors my experiences working in a grocery store. It's almost verbatim me. There's only a few things that are purely fiction. Daniel gets swept up in the wildest week of his life, where he encounters endless lines of scared Lindas and Daves. And Lindas and Daves is kind of like a Karen sort of situation where you get these archetypes of people you see over and over again, and it adds to the humor of the book. Honestly, there's a lot of times I just couldn't differentiate anybody. They all seem the same. And he's dealing with all that while learning his job and dealing with his own existential risk. And when you read the book, it's meant to be fast. It's meant to be an explosion out of a cannon, because that's the way it felt for me. That's the way that like everything happened in an instant. We went from kind of normal, like I joke around with people, to plexiglass up, masks on, and you feel like you're in a fishbowl and you can't talk to anybody, and everyone's miserable and everyone's scared, and they're wiping down their groceries. You're wiping down the cash register between each person when there's like 1,000 people that go through your line, and it turned into some sort of like dystopian kind of nightmare. And the best way for me to deal with it was to laugh, and to write stories that would make people laugh or think. There were a lot of different people that kind of came through my line, and I had both good and bad people that were reacting well and people that were not. And one story of a good interaction was there's this brain surgeon. So like I said, it's a very fluent neighborhood, right? So it's very elite job. and he had, I believe it was 7 kids. So he had like piled up groceries weekly, like, and he would come through the line, but he never wanted to talk about his job or anything. And it'd take me a little while to go through his groceries. He wanted to talk about me. He wanted to talk about how we were doing as, you know, frontline workers. Like, how are we working through this whole thing, and like how we were getting through the struggle of day-to-day grind, and the different, every day was like a new issue. And it was really heartening. He was interested in my writing, and this is a brain surgeon. This guy's like very elite in like his schooling and knowledge, and he definitely, like, he lifted my spirits. Now there's also a memorable woman that came through my line. We were running out of bags, and she asked me to double bag her groceries, and I didn't look up. I couldn't tell she was upset, and I said I couldn't do that. And then she proceeded to like grab everything off the register and the bag out of my hands, threw it into her cart, shoved her cart in the machine, and raced out the door. She just sprints out the door, and the whole time she was in front of me, she's telling me, "It's not you. It's not you. It's not you." And I'm like, completely blown away. And as she's walking away, I follow her with my eyes. She looks back at me, licks her hand, and smacks it down on the final register. And she says something while she does it, and then she storms out the door. And I thought in that moment that you never know what people are going through. She didn't need to react that way, obviously, but that was, she broke. She like literally broke in that moment where I told her a small thing that I had no control over, and she just lost it. And you see those like juxtapositions the whole time when I was working in the grocery store. Daniel learns, the character Daniel, who's very much mirrored after me. So I learned that people are, they like their comforts, and life is fragile. So they always want the same things, like the world could be falling apart, but we still got to have our particular French bread or whatever it is, even though the supply chains are completely broken. Daniel at night, he would find comfort in his apartment complex, drinking whiskey with his neighbors, and communing with the only people they could really be around outside of, coworkers. And there's the heat gun the temperature gun that they made us go through every day that we went into work. But yeah, he's dealing with like a completely silent apartment complex. And Daniel in the story deals with struggles, both imagined and real. And he hears his neighbors talking, and it's haunting in a lot of ways. And I remember that from my apartment complex. If you remember how people howled at the moon in honor of essential workers, it was really hard for me to digest that in a lot of ways, because like I didn't feel like I was doing anything above and beyond. I was just doing my job. But I appreciated the sentiment, and it was kind of fun to like sit on the patio and howl at the moon for a little bit. But I really had some amazing people that I worked with. And Daniel finds like his coworkers become his family in a way. Like I felt the same way. It's like you're absorbed. The grocery store was absorbing me in real time, and vice versa. We're all going through the same struggle together. And eventually in the story, Daniel's grateful, but he's also losing grip on reality. And it starts to spiral out. And you'll see that at the end when you read it. One interviewer told me that he thought of the book as a modern day Old Man in the Sea. And I mean, I get like rosy face just thinking of any Hemingway comparison. I think any writer would. And I didn't really know what he meant at first. It seemed like such a steeped, huge compliment in a way. But like when we talked a little bit longer, he believed that the book at its core was a struggle against forces much bigger than oneself. What does one do in the face of their own mortality? It's about survival, but it's also about unadorned and raw humanity, or the lack thereof. It's a person or people in their moment where they can have no control. And Little Man in the Sea has that element to it. He's fighting the fish that has taken him away from the shore, and then the sharks and all that stuff. I really appreciate that compliment, and I figured I'd share it with you guys because I think that hits home really well. Uh, when I was at the grocery store, I realized that it was a really interesting place. They had like 200 employees, and like there's young to people that's their career. Like their career is 35 years in a grocery store, and I realized it's a very interesting place, and I want to like share that with the world. So I decided my next book is going to be tentatively called The Grocery Store, a novel, and I'm going to explore. Exploring the process, or exploring the relationships, the dynamics, especially of like, these people don't make a lot of money, but they're like a crew that's the fight against, like mean customers all the time. So I think it'll be really interesting. So I figured I'd share a little bit about the publishing aspect of it. Here's some more awesome coworkers. One of those people is Mary, that's in the book when you read it. And I also was able to connect a lot of other essential workers. So it's nurses send me pictures, and we'd share stories of all sorts of people that were going through a tough time where they couldn't, like they had to go to work. They definitely had to go to work. So when it came to publishing the book, I had a couple options. Like I could look for an agent. I could go through the long process of finding an agent, a publisher, and then it might be 2 years before it comes out. Well, I decided that it was a more important story for people to know more quickly, to have in the zeitgeist. Also, with like hiring my own publishing firm, it allowed a lot more freedom. I wasn't like, long delays between editors. And it was an amazing process. Like the popularity of the blog helped me, like since I have my own audience. That I started a crowdfunding page. I raised about half the money I needed. And I was able to, within a year, exactly a year of publishing the blog, I was able to publish my first book. And Michelle from Inspired Forever Publishing, if you're looking to self-publish, she's a great avenue to go. She was a gem. She just helped me along the process. It was a frustrating, infuriating, hard job to do. To challenge yourself to, I wrote that and I want that in the book. But then you realize she's right. That's not going to work. Like those things are hard, and it's very self-reflective. It's punishing in a way. But it really felt amazing to publish my first book. But I also thought it was most rewarding to elevate a different group of people that are often forgotten, like grocery store workers, retail, service industry folks are often paid poorly, dismissed, and treated with a lack of respect. We tend to forget they're human, and it's pathetic, and we can do better. And I hope my book in some way like sheds a light, like a humorous light on the struggles that those people went through, but also that moment in our lives that we all went through. We all went through that together collectively. And it's good to reflect back on it, but also good to laugh. And I had a lot of good success. A lot of press was pretty fun. It was a great ride. I'm very proud of book, and now I'm speaking at a wonderful conference. But these are the folks right here that they're on strike. This is a local King Soopers. I sent them some books and cheered them on as they fought for better pay, and that they deserve to be treated with, respect and be paid well, and try and remember that when we're out with them. So I'll leave you with 3 things that I learned. If you think you can jump, if you see an opportunity to jump in your career, to make that leap, do it. Do the math. Can you afford it? What's the risks? What do I have? Support systems, structures, stuff like that. Do it if you can. And if you know people in your life or the community you work in that have the passion, tell them to pursue it. Do it on the side. Do an hour a day. and get after it every day and build that incremental thing until you can finally like get out. Maybe you can get escape velocity. If nothing else, you'll be happier. And I'd say remember to laugh. Like really, through the darkest parts of our lives, it's important to laugh because that's how we're going to heal from what we've all gone through with the pandemic, but also in our personal struggles. And everyone is going through something, so like when you're out in the grocery world and talking to people, just remember that they're going through something. They might be going through something in their lives too. And if we treat everyone with respect, then I think we're going to end up having a better world. We really will. So that's all I have. If you have any questions in the chat, I would love to answer them. I appreciate you guys coming and listening to me talk. Yeah, if you have any questions, just put them in the chat. I'd love to talk to you.
Reading your bio at the beginning, Adam, was awesome. And I put a notes at the beginning, the Karen, and I hate to say it, but the Karen mentality that is geared toward the hospitality retail industry is really sad. I've seen so many people, like you see different things like in coffee shops or where your customers feel that they're entitled or above you. That's the part that caught my eye, was being belittled when you're doing a service for them. I'm still in the retail industry, and because of that, it's hard to find anyone that wants to work because of that atmosphere now.
Yeah, it's true.
So definitely looking forward to searching down your blog and reading about it, and the stories that have been shared probably resonate with everyone as well. I'm waiting for that. And are you on Amazon or Barnes and Noble?
So yeah, the book is available on Amazon. It's also on Barnes and Noble. It's printed through Amazon, so that's usually where I direct people. You can also follow me on all those different social medias, because I'm going to be working on the second book. And if you want to kind of follow my journey as a writer, I'd love to have you along. And I share pictures from my wife. And if anyone has any like questions about like kind of letting go of your job and moving into something different and living a dual life as an author, and I have another job too. I have my email there too, and I'd be happy to start a correspondence with anyone. But I really I'm very happy to be here. I'm very pleased to talk to all you guys. This is really cool, and I hope you enjoy the book. Yeah, Amazon.com, and thanks for talking, Wes. I appreciate it. And you're right. Like retail is an incredibly hard job. No one really people don't understand it. I had to kind of explain this to my mom when she used to be mean to service industry folks. She's not anymore. But I had to I was like, what are you doing? Like these people are just trying to get through their day, and they're not really making a ton of money. Lay off. They make mistakes happen, things like that. And it's just better to save face and say their name on their tag. Be nice to them. It goes a long way. It makes us better people, I think.
I agree. I fully agree. And just to see someone, when you mention their name and call them by name, even as a server,
oh yeah,
you mention their name and you'd see their eyes and their face light up. And just to make point, we were there's a group I'm part of. We went out to dinner after a meeting a few weeks ago, and part of the group was an elderly man set in his ways, and he messed up his order. He said one thing, confirmed that it was, he wanted, he ordered fettuccine Alfredo, and the menu said fettuccine with red sauce. So he got what he ordered and confirmed that he wanted. But when the server brought it out, he belittled the server and called over 3 people to complain that he didn't get what he received. And the server was to the point of tears because she confirmed it and we all heard it. But because, like I said, he, an elderly gentleman that's supposed to be respected, he belittled her in front of us. I was so ready to get up and walk out. I apologized to the server several times on his, you can't apologize for him because he is what he is.
Yeah.
But I just felt bad enough that I was like, okay, I really don't want to be associated with this. So it's, you trust me, you would have a full encyclopedia line of novels. So you have a great beginning and not just a third one, but beyond that, I see a great future for you with this line.
Well, I really appreciate that, Les. I really do. And I'm so grateful that I took that leap, man. I'm just like, it was the best thing I ever did for myself. And I want to encourage everyone to do it if they can. Like, figure out a way to do it and put away that hour, like try and figure out your dream, like accomplish it, Kendall, how are we looking on time? I think we're over, aren't we?